Good morning, friends, and welcome to Monday Morning Music with Matt. I'm Matt Greer here at St. John's United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Good morning to you. It is a beautiful, chilly morning in Albuquerque. I'm here in my office at the church, and if you hear random banging occasionally, it's because they're working on HVAC systems in the church and specifically in the sanctuary, which is all to the good because they're installing filtration, which will make things safer once we are able to gather in there again. St. John's folks, I hope you're aware we had a really great virtual town hall meeting yesterday to kind of talk about where we were with stages for reopening and also protocols for when we do reopen. And I at least found it to be very encouraging. There's a congregational survey out now that if you haven't had a chance to complete, I hope that you do. And I think probably we are looking for Holy Week and Easter to be status quo, unfortunately, but we've got some creative things in the hopper about that. And of course, with the wonderful weather that we have here, we're going to be reconvening small outdoor singing groups in the next week or two. So stay tuned about that. And those are not just open to the choir. We would love to be able to meet in a safe way and make music together. So stay tuned for all of that. But I'm feeling like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and before too long, we will be able to gather and worship together. So I have some wonderful special guests with me this morning, and I can't wait to chat with them. But I'm going to play a couple of things first just to get us going. Those of you that are with us regularly on Monday morning know that one of the things we do is to play music that just kind of makes us happy, which is really, really important right now. And I am going to play a short video that a friend of mine posted on Facebook this week that I was just totally charmed by. And St. John's folks, you actually have seen one of these two young men in the video. This is a video performance, an a cappella performance by two tenors who happen to be brothers. You'll see they look very much alike. And the first one you'll see on screen is named Corey Dalton Hart. And Corey was actually here with Voces 8 as one of their scholars. They have this program where they encourage young professional singers. And so Corey was here with that cohort a couple of years ago. Singing with them. Wonderful, wonderful tenor in the Boston area. And he has a brother who is also a fantastic tenor, who has also been a Voces 8 scholar. And they have been posting wonderful things using the Acapella app, which is an app which will allow you to basically edit video so that you can harmonize with yourself. And Corey and Sully posted this arrangement that they did of the hymn Sweet Hour of Prayer. And I'm going to play it for you now. I hope you enjoy it. This is Corey Dalton Hart and Sully Hart, Sweet Hour of Prayer.
Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, that calls me from a world of care, and bids me at my Father's throne make all my wants and wishes known. In seasons of distress and grief, my soul has often found relief, and oft escaped the tempter snare by thy return, sweet hour of prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, thy wings shall my petition bear to him whose truth and faithfulness engage the waiting soul to bless. And since he bids me seek his face, believe his word and trust his grace, I'll cast on him my every take care, and wait for thee, sweet hour of prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, may I thy consolation share, till from Mount Pisgah's lofty height I view my home and take my flight. This robe of flesh I'll drop and rise to seize the everlasting prize, and shout while passing through the air, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer, and shout while passing through the air, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer.
Isn't that lovely? And you've seen probably a lot of people doing stuff that looks like that, and often that's with this app, Acapella. And often it's a single voice in a single person in 4 different boxes. It's lovely and disconcerting to see two brothers together doing that and making that wonderful harmony. So thank you, Corey and Sully, for allowing me to show that this morning. And then by way of introducing our very special guests, I'm going to play a video that Ken Medema actually made for Quintessence a couple of weeks ago for our Love Virtually Festival. And Ken, of course, has been to Albuquerque many times, as we will talk about when I eventually let him appear on screen. But for those of you who might not have had experience hearing Ken sing, we asked Ken to do a video of a specific song for this event over Valentine's Day. And he was very kind to record us a beautiful performance of When I Fall in Love. This is Ken Medema.
When I fall in love, it will be forever, or I'll never fall in love. In a restless world like this is, love is ended before it's begun, and too many moonlight kisses seem to cool in the warmth of the sun. When I give my heart, it will be completely, or I'll never give my heart. In the moment I can feel that you feel that same way too, is when I'll fall in love. this is. Love is ended before it's halfway begun, and too many of those moonlight kisses seem to cool in the warmth of the sun. When I give my heart, it will be completely, or I'll never give my heart. And the moment I can feel you feel that same way too, is when I'll give my heart forever and completely, when I'll fall in love with you.
So beautiful. And I do apologize that the video is a little bit jerky. I think that honestly, I need a more powerful computer to be able to do these. So write to the church and ask the church to buy me a more powerful computer. In the meantime, if we are ready, and if what I think is happening, you probably can still hear me, but video is frozen. And so let me just remove a couple of things to give my computer not as much to do. And then I will welcome our guests. Yeah. Give me just a moment, folks. And it looks good again. At least it does here. Apologize for that. Let me quick welcome our guests before anything else happens. Ken Medema and Beverly Vander Molen have been to St. John's so many times in recent years, and as often as possible, because we really do consider them to be family. And when Ken has been very, very active during the lockdown, doing concerts from home, but this has been a lot different because they are used to being on the road, producing concerts together most weeks of the year. And so they happen to have time this morning, and I am so happy they agreed to join me. Welcome, Ken Medema, joining us from California, and Beverly Vander Molen, joining us from Michigan. How are you?
Great.
Fabulous.
Great to be together.
It's so good to see you, Matt.
Thank you. It's really good to see you too. I am really sorely in need of a haircut right now, but that has been a chronic problem during these last few months.
I'm fortunate. My son is cuts my hair every 2 or 3 months, and so on the 2nd of January, we went out to his house and sat outside with masks on, and he gave me a lovely haircut. So I'm in good shape.
Yes, you look very, very nice. I've heard of spouses, kind of improvising on each other's hair, and we have not gone there yet, Amy and I. Beverly, how are you handling that problem?
I do it myself, and I just came in from a blustery thing, so I'm seeing, wow, this doesn't look like it usually does, but hey.
It's okay. Everybody's very, very forgiving. So I mentioned that you two are used to being on the road producing concerts. I mean, Ken lives in California, Beverly lives in Michigan, so you're generally meeting up somewhere. But it's now coming on a year, I assume, that you have
Yeah.
you've not done that. What's it been like?
Oh man. We just play off of each other all the time, and and the last minute you can change things, and we just have to pre-plan everything, pre-plan shots, and we're trying to learn new things as we go.
So Ken, I know on Thursday nights has been doing a concert almost every Thursday night on Facebook. And you're at home, so I know your wife Jane is helping, and some of your family members to get the technical things doing. But also Beverly is being a bossy producer from Michigan. Is that how that works?
Absolutely. Talk about bossy producers. My goodness,
it never ends.
Ken, you have to move the camera just a little bit. That's not quite the right angle. Move the flower on the piano. Change the plant. I mean, it never stops. It never stops.
You can't wear that shirt.
You can't wear that shirt.
She's a good boss. She's a very compassionate. She's just a good producer. And
so remind me. How long have you two been working together?
We started in 1987. So it's been, 34 years?
Going to be 34 years?
Yeah.
And prior to that, Ken, I mean, you started traveling as a performer in the 70s. So prior to that, you worked with other people who were accompanying you and producing your concerts?
No, I mean, I would go to a place and we would have to sort of make it up as we went along. I mean, if the place I went was competent and they had good sound and whatever, all would be well. If they didn't, we suffered. So it was not uncommon for me, let's say, to go to a church, and in the 70s, people just didn't care as much about good sound for concert production. It just wasn't that big a deal. So it was nothing for me to have to go to a church and spend the whole day on Saturday trying to figure out how we are going to mic this. And then when I first started using synthesizers, that was even worse because people just didn't have the wherewithal to connect up a synthesizer into their church sound system that had been there for 70 years. And so it's like, it was just impossible. I mean, and one of the things that made us start working together is that Beverly attended a concert and said, I can't understand any of your words. Your sound sounds like it has a cataract over it. And I thought, let's see what we can do about that. So basically, we started working together, and I taught Beverly everything I had ever learned about sound, which I'd learned about sound in high school and college and whatever. So we would, if we had a day off, we would rent a hall and rent a sound system and actually play with setting it up and getting it right. And it was really exciting. And so now
I think a lot of us feel, especially in this time, that we have gained a whole bunch of technical skills that we were never particularly interested in. I certainly feel that way. And I'm grateful for everybody on the staff with me who is smarter than I am about that stuff. But Beverly, you have a background as a church musician as well. And then how did you get into production and sound?
I think because I'm bossy. I would hear him and I would see, things, a church would put flowers or something right in front and, you couldn't see his face and little things like that. And I had always done those kinds of things where I worked, and it just translated pretty easily.
And so what were you working doing before you met Ken?
I had a job pretty much like yours. I had a choir. I played the organ every Sunday. I directed from the organ. I actually tore out all of the choir pews on a weekend with some friends and figured we would ask forgiveness than permission. And people heard the choir for the first time and they changed it.
Because the pews were padded?
Not only were they padded, but they were facing the opposite part of the chancel. And we turned it so that it was on an angle, and people were like, wow, we have a choir.
Wow.
I hadn't thought about that until you asked me that question.
And a year ago, what was your last gig before lockdown? Where were you when all of this, when everything changed?
We were doing a tour with a friend of ours. Ted Schwartz is a wonderful, wonderful actor who specialty has been writing scenes based on biblical stories, and not only biblical stories, but in a lot of sort of faith material. And we were doing a tour with him all around the Northeast. We were in Indiana and Virginia and Pennsylvania, and we were doing a show called Can We Talk? And it was a show really about this idea of learning how to have conversations with people with whom you disagree. And it was an hour-and-a-half show that we put together with several different scenes involving acting and music. And our last show was on March the 13th in Indiana, and we thought the shows for the weekend were going to happen. It looked kind of iffy, but we had been promised the churches were going to work together, and by the time we had driven to Virginia, the governor had shut everything down, and our last two shows on the 14th and 15th were canceled. So our last show was on March 13th.
Wow.
And we were driving around. It was kind of fun because Ted and his wife and Beverly and I were driving together in a big old motorhome, driving to Indiana, Virginia, Pennsylvania, whatever. And so we stayed in hotels, and then we would get in the mobile home, the big old motor home, and one person would drive. They never let me drive, but that's the way it goes. And then
I'm sure eventually they would have gotten around to you.
And then the rest of us would be either rehearsing or doing work, whatever. So it was a kind of a fun tour.
And I think that we all imagined that this would be a pretty short-term proposition. On the other side of things, I feel like we're starting to see finally the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're having a hard time wrapping our heads around what performances really are going to be like, especially at the very, very beginning. But do you have any tentative live performances on the books right now?
Yes, we're supposed to celebrate, it was postponed a year ago, August 1, which we thought we were going to make, and then we couldn't. So we're going to celebrate the 176th birthday of a church in Maine.
A big choral festival. There's a wonderful organist friend of ours, Mark Thallander is his name.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, who actually missing one arm and still plays and whatever. But he organizes these choral festivals and stuff, and so he's behind that. And we're going to go up to Maine in August. I hope.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. And I wanted to ask, because you've been doing this for over 30 years together, and I know that, there are certain churches that you go back to, and you don't only work in churches, but I think churches are your bread and butter, and there are certain churches that you go back to, and certain churches that are favorites of yours. I'm sure I won't ask, to name any particular churches.
You mean like St. John's?
In Albuquerque?
Do you enjoy coming to St. John's in Albuquerque?
Oh my goodness, yes. We have so many friends at St. John's now. I feel like it really is kind of like coming home. And
we were there. We were there way before you even. So we were so delighted that you still invited us.
Well, there was a file, and the reports were good. No, but you also, and Ken alluded to before, he had the benefit of having a professional sound person and producer, I'm sure you go into situations where it's occasionally difficult. And as specific as you are, as I know from experience, in your instructions about what you want/need for sound, I'm sure there are situations where it's more challenging than others. Do you have any horror stories from your years together?
Oh my word!
Wasn't it Alabama, Ken? The place where they said,
yes,
we came and they said, "Oh, the sound check has already been done." And we said, "We haven't brought the equipment in yet." And they said, "Oh no, we only have 4 mics and we've checked them and they all work." What they didn't tell us is that we couldn't get into the sound booth, and that the mics, even though we could attach them to the keyboard, the one mic, everything else would shut off when one mic worked.
So when the keyboard was playing, that was the sound you heard. When I started singing, the keyboard would die. Because they had designed the system for television, and only one mic was needed at a time. So we had to pull an ancient sound system out of the church basement, wipe the dust off. It was a system from the 70s. Wipe the dust off. It was a tube amplifier. Turn the thing on and try to hook it up. And we got it working, but it took every last minute of the day to do this.
Yeah, well, I have a new appreciation now, having lived through the last year, of how important that is and how difficult it is to get it right. And I imagine you've also gotten to sing in some amazing acoustic spaces as well, Ken.
Like the chapel at Duke University.
Oh my goodness, what a beautiful space.
Well, it's a lovely, lovely space, but we had a wonderful story about what happened in that chapel. Can I tell you that story?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that story.
Okay. So the background is that there is a joke that Beverly and I have had going for 34 years now. There's a piece that we both, and some of your people know this piece. There's a piece that we grew up with in our churches. It's called The Holy City.
And I happen to have a recording of that. I mean, if you wanted.
Play a little bit of it, because this is important in the story.
Okay, all right. Let me see how easily I can get this queued up here.
Just a piece.
Sure.
Last night I lay sleeping, there came a dream so fair. I stood in old Jerusalem beside the temple there. I heard the children singing, and ever as they sang, methought the voice of angels from heaven in answer rang. Methought the voice of angels from heaven in answer rang. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, lift up your gates and sing, Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna to your King.
Is that the one you mean?
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so we both knew this piece from our early church experience, and in my church, it was the solo was sung by Jack, the semi driver, whose vibrato was about as wide as his truck. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, and so Beverly would say to me before each concert, "Okay, Ken, is this the night I get to sing the Holy City?" And I would say, "No way in the world will you sing." I do not let Beverly sing. I mean, she has a wonderful speaking voice, and she has this. In fact, we've actually played with having her do little sort of operatic things, and she's got this great big voice. But we don't let Beverly sing. So we're
Plain and
at
simple.
we're at Duke University, and we're doing a rally with our friend Jim Wallace, who is was the editor of Sojourners magazine, and the rally was really bringing all the social justice folks together in a community, and then we would do this part concert, part preach in, whatever. So we had finished the rally, and Duke University's chapel is this wonderful Gothic space where you can sing there in the summer and come back at Christmas and figure out what you sounded like in the summer because the reverberation is that long. And so we were packing up the stuff. Jim was packing up his books and magazines that didn't sell, and Beverly was packing up all of my keyboard equipment, and I had nothing to do. So I thought, in this gorgeous space, maybe I'll just sing some Gregorian chant, because it's the kind of space where you just do that. So I started singing Hodie Christus natus est, Hodie Salvator apparuit. And I had this wonderful fantasy about, singing in a great European cathedral with all these wonderful monks around me, and how glorious that would be. And all of a sudden, as I'm singing away, from the vicinity of the keyboard, I hear, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, sing for the night is o'er. And so I just sang louder. Hodie Jerusalem, Hodie. And so we're singing at the top of our lungs, and the sound is reverberating around this huge Gothic space, and we're just having a wonderful, riotous time singing, laughing. And then Jim Wallace, who is not a singer, he sang once in a high school production of West Side Story. He breaks into the fray with, Maria, I just met a girl named Maria. Hodie Jerusalem, Maria, Hodie Jerusalem, Maria. We're yelling and singing at the top of our lungs. Gets louder and louder and louder, and finally we're all done packing up. We're singing and laughing ourselves into oblivion. We walk to the door of the chapel. We open the door, and outside there is this student who had his ear up against the door. And he looks with this kind of amazed look and says, "Was that you guys in here?" And Jim says, "Yeah, it was." He says, "Oh, my word. Oh, it sounded like monks on speed." And we have told that story for years now. And everywhere we tell it, it gets great responses.
And Jim Wallace has it in one of his books as well.
Oh, does he really?
Yes, yes.
Beverly, is there any rebuttal you want to give to that story after all these years, or is that about it?
No, because I have learned it's not over till the blind guy sings.
Well, I feel so glad that I happened to have that recording of John Beverly Shea or somebody singing "The Holy City" so that we could hear how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
And Beverly, next time you're here, I will let you sing. You can sing in my choir anytime.
Well, in your choir, maybe, because as these apps go, Ken has done that once. He let me sing backup on a song in the studio because he said, "You really need to do this." However, when I got the recording, I couldn't find myself. I knew I was so buried.
Oh my! It has been.
No, that's not true, Beverly. You actually sang a duet with me on one song.
Oh, that is true. Yes.
All right. Okay.
What song?
That is true.
It's called Face to Face. It's on our. Which album is it on?
Oasis for the Thirsty Soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. And I have done that in concert with him several times.
We did have an interesting experience, and your singers will relate to this. One time we were up in Washington, near Bellingham, Washington, this little town called Linden, and it was in the wintertime, and we were supposed to do a religious emphasis week at a Christian high school. And when we got there, there had been a horrible blizzard. And so school was canceled the whole week long. So we were in this hotel, couldn't even get out of town because all the roads were snowed in. And we were staying in this hotel. So one of the things we did just for fun is I said, Beverly, let's play with your voice and see what we can do. And Beverly has this very lovely, kind of gentle voice.
Be kind.
She sings sort of like, abide with me, fast falls. It's a very gentle voice. I said, let's see what happens if you imitate an opera singer, like make fun of opera singers. And she opened her mouth and went, holy! I mean, this huge, huge sound came out. And I said, that's your natural voice. If we could develop that voice. She always jokes about the fact that she gave up an opera career to work with me. So that's the voice that's waiting to be heard.
I mean, I hate to interfere with longstanding relationships, but Ken, it's possible that if you were a bit more encouraging to Beverly, that
I would take over.
That's why I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of like looking at the trumpets. You never want to give them an inch. I am curious over the time, I guess specifically about the time that you two have been traveling together. And again, speaking specifically of churches, you both grew up in the Reformed Christian tradition. Mm-hmm. Are there certain denominations that tend to want to bring Ken more than others, or certain evangelical orientations, or has that shifted over the years?
I would say it shifted, and it's more mainline now.
Yeah, a lot more Methodists, Presbyterians. Less of the. For a while, I was doing a lot of work in Southern Baptist churches because my wife and I were Southern Baptist. That's sort of what I became in college, and we were kind of known in those circles. But that has changed a lot. Southern Baptists went to a different place, and some of the break-off groups from Southern Baptist. Some of them have had us, but it's a lot more Methodists, a lot more Presbyterians, some Lutherans, some UCC churches.
Church of the Brethren, Mennonites.
Yep, some of the Peace churches. Yeah, that's where we're doing most of our work now.
And has that changed along with kind of your theological orientation, Ken? Has there been a shift? Because I think a lot of people who have known you for decades knew you from kind of contemporary Christian evangelical circles in the 70s. And you can have a really good time, folks, going on and finding old album covers of Ken's online and seeing the evolution of his dress and his hair over the decades. But I sense that theologically for you, and I think perhaps for your wife, Jane, I don't want to speak for her, there's been a shift towards more social justice-y, more progressive form of Christianity.
Toward not only the more social justice, but very definitely toward a more progressive theology. I very rarely use, for instance, male language for God. I'm very much in the sort of inclusive language thing. We've been a part of a welcoming and affirming church for quite some time now, and I could not go back ever to a church that was not a welcoming and totally open and affirming church. I think when it comes to theology, people would probably call us pretty liberal, pretty left of center, and that's where I feel comfortable. That's where I feel at home. The language that I used in earlier songs. I did a recording recently of some older songs where I actually changed the language and rewrote them because my own theology has evolved, and I think that's true of Beverly too. That we're very much more comfortable in progressive kind of liberal circles. than we
And
were.
Beverly, I remember you talking about growing up. I do have that right, Christian Reformed.
Yes, yes.
And not being able to go to movies, or could you
Oh
dance? Did you play
no.
cards? What?
Oh no, no, no. And we could not watch TV on Sunday. We could not dance. And I have a very interesting story that my dad was at a cousin's wedding and they were dancing and they were always the liberal people. And my dad danced with me and he said, "How is it that we thought this was a sin?" And he
Wow.
became the dancer at everybody's weddings. He would do the chicken, that chicken thing. And I have a wonderful picture of him just smiling. And it's one of our favorites of our whole family. That whole switch. And yeah, it was unique.
Yeah, I'm sure. Um, well, I asked Ken to give me an example, as I tend to do with guests. And Beverly, I apologize that I didn't have time to do this with you, but we will ask you next time you're on. I asked Ken to give me an example of a piece of music that he loves, that has been sustaining to him. It's one of my favorite things to do with random guests that I have on. And Ken, you sent me a recording of a piece of music that you love. Do you want to set this up before I play
Yeah,
it?
I do. I do. There's a great old Negro spiritual called "I Don't Feel No Ways Tired," and I heard a recording. I just happened to be skimming the radio on a Saturday night. There's a show that comes on in San Francisco called Tangents, and the guy plays all kinds of interesting world music. And I heard this song, and I thought, I've got to get this song because it absolutely made me weep, weep, weep. It's the setting of the old spiritual, "I Don't Feel No Ways Tired," but and the reason I love it and the reason it has been church to me is that it incorporates almost every style of music that I have loved in my life. Let me set it up. It is performed by a guitarist singer from Norway whose name is Knut Reiersrud. He's a wonderful guitarist and folk singer whose particular interest is American roots music. So he does a lot of blues, he does a lot of folk music, and just that's his interest. He does a lot of teamwork with an organist. And the organist is a guy named Ivar Kleve. That's how you'd say it in Norway. A classical organist who also has an interest in jazz and folk music and whatever. They brought in some percussion players. They brought in a sitar player, and of all things, the Blind Boys of Alabama. This black group who's been singing ever since the early the 30s and 40s. The group has changed a lot, but these are old guys from Alabama. All of them are blind, black singers who happen to be on tour in Norway. And so all these guys got together and decided to do a performance of this piece. You can't find it. You can only find it on one recording, and this is a recording of. It's called Nordic Nights, a recording of different things from the Nordic traditions, and this piece is on there, and it incorporates. I'm a fan of the pipe organ, so it incorporates that wonderful sound of the pipe organ. I'm a jazz lover, so it incorporates jazz. I love black spirituals. It brings that into the picture. What you'll hear is it begins with the organ, and then you'll hear our guitarist singer sing the piece, and then they jump into the rhythm, and then eventually you'll hear the Black Boys of Alabama singing this piece, and then it ends back with the organ. But it is, for me, the quintessential church music experience.
Beautiful. Let's hear it. This is Knut Reiersrud and the Blind Boys of Alabama singing "I Don't Feel No Ways Tired."
this time I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me.
That's extraordinary.
Oh, it is. It has been church to me. Uh, when I get discouraged, I listen to that, put the headphones on and turn it up to Mother and let it roll.
Uh, Thank you for sharing that with us this morning, Ken. It's fun to watch you listen to it because
Oh,
it obviously still moves you as many times
it does.
as
Every time I
you've
hear
heard
it,
it.
every time.
An amazing message.
Wouldn't that
Well,
be cool? Wouldn't that be cool to hear on Sunday morning in your
that would be cool to hear in
to
Sunday
have that?
morning.
Boy,
Yeah. Well, we so look forward to the time that both of you will be back here in Albuquerque in our sanctuary or wherever.
Yes.
We have had so many lovely memories with the two of you. And of course, not just doing concerts or worship services, but we also have music ministry has sponsored Ken going into schools in recent visits and doing what he does with students. We have a very fond memory of our youth choir coming to San Francisco, where Ken lives, and doing a short tour around San Francisco with Ken and in a homeless shelter and in a variety of settings. And I don't think we will ever forget getting to do that with you.
that was so much fun. Oh my
It
goodness.
really was.
Yeah.
Well, we've had our first vaccines now, so we're getting ready. We're
Yeah,
getting
we
ready.
Yeah.
have, Dave and I had ours on Monday.
Terrific. And so just do a quick plug. You are continuing, Ken, to do Thursday night concerts on your Facebook page.
Yes,
I think
uh,
they're 6 o'clock Mountain Time is when they generally are. Is that right?
exactly. And this week we have my guest is Jackie Lewis, who's the pastor of one of the most progressive churches in New York, the Middle Collegiate Church. Wonderful pastor, author, speaker. We've had some amazing guests. We've had Jim Wallace of Sojourners. We've had Shane Claiborne, who's The Simple Way in Philadelphia is his ministry. He's done work in the inner city. We've had an author, Walt Wangren, just all kinds of really cool people. Last week was a children's show. We had puppets and all kinds of good stuff. So we're doing things on this show that I've never been able to do, in concert, because I can bring people from everywhere, all friends who
Sure.
I've known over the years, and it's really cool.
Yeah, that is the great advantage of doing this stuff virtually, isn't it?
Yeah, it
So if
really
you want
is.
We've even had
if you
this
want to know
guy.
what Ken is up to, you can go to his website there, kenmedema.com. There's also recordings to purchase and scores to purchase and all kinds of wonderful stuff. So we will continue to keep up with you. And we can't wait until, Beverly, you are back with us. And when you come back, maybe you could bring Ken with you.
And let him sing.
I know you are my favorite booker.
Well, it won't be long, I'm convinced. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us this morning. It was so great to see both of you.
Good to see you.
And we'll be
Say
together
hello
soon.
to Amy.
Okay. Say hello to Jane. Say hello to Dave. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, folks. Thanks for watching.